right, well, Father, we sure are thankful for this day to be able to congregate, to be able to read and understand your word. We thank you for Brother Eric and his heart to teach us, to show us what he's with the Father, what you have shown him. And we're so thankful for just a day of rest and relaxation, to be able to come together and be ministers to your word and reach out to the nations and wake our brothers and sisters up so that we can be a part of this one body that you have created, this new creation, restoring Israel back to the Torah, to the truth, Father. And we're just so blessed to be a part of this. And thanks for this day. In your son's name. Amen.
So be it. All right, I'm gonna turn off the camera and I'll see you in an hour.
Okay, so we've been on this study of the minor prophets now for, there's, I believe, 15 episodes, or 16. Anyway, so there was 2 weeks ago when I was covering Zechariah, recall to mind Yahuwah, not just him, his name, his relationship with Israel. We talked quite a bit about what does that word Zakar mean, but I ran out of time. And so if I go back to what's dated on the handout papers, 1211, page 4, I believe I had just talked about, I was going in reverse order. I was at chapter 11, verse 14, where he said he broke his second staff named Hobalim, and the first staff called Naom, which is the pleasant, delightful, lovely, charm and melodious is Naom. So I believe that was the name of, I'm guessing, I didn't go look up the spelling of the word Naomi, as in Ruth and Naomi. But Nun Ayin Mem means melodious or musical, pleasant, delightful, lovely, charm. And then the word Hobalim, which is the name of the second staff, literally damage, injury, wounded, destroyed, corrupted, ruined. But it also means to be bound by taking a pledge, or then the measured portion, or rigging, like ropes that you'll see on a tall-masted sailing ship. It's like, what has that got to do with anything? So this same question, you look at the Hebrew words, you find their definition, and then you have to say, what has that got to do with, not just with anything, but what has that got to do with the specific, in particular, what's all this about? I happened to see on the internet the other day, something came up and it mentioned a fellow by the name of Hugh Ross. And as some people know, this is a really smart guy, lives down in LA, I believe, astrophysicist, I think, or brilliant scientific mind, Christian. And he mentioned, something came up, the title said paradoxes. And I thought, okay, well, paradox is an unusual kind of a conundrum, an enigma. So I started listening to a couple minutes, and he said there's 3 things which separate Christianity from other religions. It's like, okay, one is and then we've talked about these matters. He said the fact that the universe exists and that physicists, scientists can calculate, as well as philosophers. So we talked about that book by Jim Holt, Why Does the World Exist? And it can be determined analytically, logically, reasonably, that time and space and the matter of the universe, the physical matter of the universe, even if it's light, which is, you could say, non-physical matter, had a beginning. They can see that it's moving out, so they can project it back to what they call the Big Bang, in theory, if not in reality. Okay, but that means that it had to have a causal agent, somebody, a creator or some sort of event designer. So atheists and evolutionists won't go there. They'll say, well, it just kind of happened out of nowhere. And it's like, well, okay, Christianity pins the causal agent You could look at the Aleph bet and say, well, the bet is material matter to be a noun in existence. So Aleph is the causal agent, the undescribed, silent, unexpressed other than in the fact that bet exists. So Aleph is the reason is we've discussed before that Bereshit 1:1, Genesis 1:1 starts with the word Bereshit with the enlarged letter bet. Where's the Aleph? The Aleph is the invisible, silent, causal force, causal agent, designer, orchestrator of bet in existence. So he then said that humanity is not like any other created being or object. Humanity. Well, in the Bible, in Genesis, it says that Adam, mankind, was made in the image and likeness of Elohim, whatever that means. Does that mean Elohim has a torso with a head and 2 arms and 2 legs? Some people think so, 2 eyes. Sometimes you wish he had more eyes and more arms, and maybe Elohim would have been better, like numerous eyes like a spider and numerous legs like an octopus, or maybe a long neck like a giraffe. Why the human form is very limited. Maybe the phrase image and likeness doesn't necessarily mean anatomically the human skeleton. Might mean other likeness. But nevertheless, the fact that the human was not just a developed evolutionary progression result, but specifically designed to be a unique creature, different than all others. That word different is bet dalet, pronounced bada or bad. So the joke is, blending Hebrew and English, it wasn't good for Adam to be bad. It says it wasn't tov that Adam was bada. It wasn't. Adam being unique by himself didn't fulfill the capacity of what humanity could be expressed as. So that's why Hua, the female Eve, was brought about taken out of Adam's side. So the man became both male and female. Just looking at the words, not just the concepts. So then the third thing that Hugh Ross mentioned was the resurrection of Christ. And he said about these 3 things, the fact that there was a causal agent to the universe, the fact that mankind is a unique, specifically intended, designed creature, and the fact that Christ rose from the dead. He said these 3 things give Christianity its credibility. And to punch holes in or reduce or shoot down one of those 3, you'd lose Christianity. But so too, Christianity supports and is supported by and is validated by those 3 beliefs, which he said no other religion maintains that. And so wait a minute, what about the concept of Israel being just as unique among mankind as Adam is among all the other creations? Why didn't he mention that? Why was that completely avoided? And as significant as Christ resurrecting from the dead is the concept that Israel is going to recover from its banishment, its exile, its diaspora. And that as specific as the universe doesn't just happen to exist because it happened to create itself, but it was a very intentional project that the Creator had in mind. So Israel being Am Kadosh, his segula, his treasured people. Why did he avoid that? I turned off the video at that point, 2.5 minutes into his talk. Doesn't matter. I acknowledge those 3 things he said. I don't need to hear another hour discussing it, but why did he avoid why those 3 things even exist? Those 3 things exist because Yahweh wants his Israel, his people, to talk about Science without talking about the Creator is just as void as talking about Adam, but not talking about Israel, or talk about the resurrection of Yeshua without regarding him as being the fractal type, the archetype model, which is the narrative story of what happens to his people. Or the fact that when Yeshua said that he only came for the lost tribes of the house of Israel, lost people, or that he, according to John 1:1, is the Word incarnate. So to crucify Yeshua is to crucify Yahweh's Word. But for Yeshua to rise from the dead is for Yahweh's words to come back from our regard of death. To say, oh, Jesus Christ is our God. Well, is that to say, John 1:1, that Elohim gave us this word, this structure of language, this Hebrew alphabet, as a way to relate to him, to regard him, to look at his communication and say, that's where I find the identity of my deity. But I don't worship the letters. I regard the letters as the vehicle by which to Obed worship Yahweh, the one who, you might say, hid himself or tucked himself in to these words, but he's not contained by these words. He's not. I saw somebody else put up some video that said, and this is like some big thinker, the God of the Jews lived in a box in a tent. What? Gosh. The word shekin is to abide, to hang out. It's the Greek word taverno, and the B and the V, same letter, same phonetic, two phonetic sounds of the same letter, where we get tabernacle. It's where you get the word tavern, like the local pub, the public house. The tabernacle was the public house. Did the God of the Jews decide to hide and live inside a box, inside a tent? Gosh, that's completely minimalizing, trivializing, reducing what the creator of the universe, who's infinitely vast and expansive, was trying to do to relate to his people. Anyway, you see some of these things on the internet, and the great thing about it is that a few years ago, there was no internet. And either you went to a certain church or a lecture or a university to hear somebody speak, or you never heard him speak. You had to have somebody tell you about it, or you had to read the book. Boy, they've got these TED Talks, and in 20 minutes or 15 minutes, 5 minutes, you can hear a subject from some great speaker bring a subject up, and it's like, wow. But as I listen to some of these great speakers who get paid a lot of money to tell you beautiful, wonderful things that you may not have ever pondered or been able to chase down the thoughts of, the structure of yourself, I find that it's more and more nonsense and more trivial nothingness. And it's like, where can you find the stuff that's really worth thinking about? Like that Wizard of Oz song, if I only had a brain. It's like, whoa, if I only had a brain, what are those smart people thinking about? This stuff. This words of Yahuwah is the greatest thing to be thinking about, is the best thing to be thinking about. Mention Malachi 3:16. I was talking to a friend the other day, and if he sees this, hey, Dave, I was talking to a friend last night and said, pushing 70 years old, starting to have, blood problems and medical issues, and mine starts to slip a few the gears. It's like, if you could store up treasures in heaven right now, if you could do something to make use of your life on the face of the earth before everything blows. I mean, look what happened between Russia and Ukraine, and people were living a normal life, and all of a sudden, whoop, not so normal anymore. A couple 100,000 people dead already or something. And it's like young men in the military, and it's like prime of life, you're done. So besides our own frailty, living out our days, certain events can happen, whether it's this ice storm, Ohio, a blanket of fog came in and bam, 50 car piled up, 4 people dead, maybe more. Your life is suddenly, boom, whatever you thought you were going to do tomorrow, you ain't. What can we do right now if we could store up treasures in heaven? What would be the best thing to do? What are these words telling us? To look at these words is not just another Bible study. What am I hunting for? What am I looking for? I was criticized severely for spending so much time trying to find out what did Yahweh say when I should be doing the obvious, tending my household, mow the lawn, help your wife, keep your dog from going over to the neighbor's property and making a mess, or whatever that looks like. It's like, to do the obvious, this guy was saying, this friend was telling me, is better than seeking the hidden. Really? Well, I'm not going to deny that doing the obvious as a good person, a responsible man, is worth doing. But to say that doing that pales this endeavor, I don't think he understands. My point is, so I'm going to go quickly through a couple things in Zechariah here, and then get to this concept of treasures in heaven. Zechariah 11:8, Yahweh says, my soul became impatient. Impatient? I thought patience was a virtue, or patience was a gift of the Holy Spirit in Galatians. And so how could the Spirit of Yahuwah become impatient, totally against his character? Well, the word there is kuf zadi resh. And if you look at the dictionary definition, it means short or cut off. In other words, Yahuwah said, listen, I am perfectly willing to give you guys all the room you need, all the time, all the leash, long leash. But it says, finish the sentence, my soul became impatient or cut short with them, for their soul also, and again, that word also is gimel mem, which is the reciprocal mirror action, found me repulsive. His response to our regard of him. And that word repulsive is actually bet chet lamed hey. Well, chet lamed, that's the word hala. Like, hey, this is hala. This is sweet and pleasant. Bet is a prefix, means in the condition of. Bet chet lamed. So I'm just trying to show you there's a couple different ways that you can analyze these words. If I know that the word challah bread means sweet or pleasant, well, I can look up the word chet lamed hey regarding bet as the prefix, look it up in the dictionary, and it means weak or sick. Chet lamed lamed, hollow, profane, but it's also sweet and pleasant. But I could look at, well, bet just a prefix letter, and it means to ripen. It also means a young woman reaching puberty, just getting ripe. What's that got to do with anything? But it's translated also disgust, loathed, and abhorred, repulsive. This is one of those words that is both sides. To say, boy, this is a piece of fruit on a tree. Oh, boy, it's sweet, pleasant, ripe, just at its perfect stage of development, or exactly the opposite, disgusting, loathed, abhorrent. And this says, Yahweh says, my people determined that they could find a better God elsewhere, that I am disgusting to them. My Torah is reprehensible. This stuff, it's like just a stench to them. So he says, that's it. They became a stench to me. So to be cut short of his patience, but you'd have to look at both these words and look at the sentence, but you have to know how the relationship works in order to be able to read this into it. And if I hadn't been looking and seeing that this reciprocal mirror image, Gimel Mem, is a theme throughout the entire scripture, I don't know that I would necessarily make that connection. And then 11:9, I said, I will not tend you, let the dying one die, let the decimated one be decimated. And for the remaining ones, let them devour each other's flesh. What kind of an attitude is that? That's the way it's going to go down. So where's the recovery? The benefit of reading the problem is that the recovery is built in. So for him to say, return to me and I will return to you, the ball's in our court. If we consider his ways abhorrent, and so it's going to cut short his reaching out to us, we change our attitude. It's our serve. We could be doing that right now. So Zechariah 10 verse 8, I will whistle or shriek. The word is shin resh kuf he, shrika. It's also the word for bright red. I will shriek. My dad used to go out and he'd whistle, and we'd hear that, and okay, it's time to go. I relate to that. And kibbutz, gather. Then the word pei, dalet, yod, tav, yod, mem. Yod, mem, that's a suffix. We could kick that. Yod, tav, that's to be in a state or a condition. So pei, dalet, yod, you look that up and it means separate, free, release, redeem, deliver, ransom. I will whistle for them and gather them, kaf, yod, when, for, thus, because, so, when, while. It's like at this time, he's going to whistle and get our attention, wake us up, and bring us back into a collection, redeemed, delivered, set free, and separated from whatever else was holding us. This is this incredible release. This is what, there's the New Testament verse that says the entire creation, and the word is yearns, or like standing on its tiptoe in anticipation, waiting. It's like, oh, I can't wait. Waiting for the revealing of the sons of Elohim, B'nai of Elohim. Waiting for us to come into the fullness of what we're supposed to be. And what's holding us back? Our attitude. But there it says, Veravu kamu rabu. Resh bet vav, kaf mem vav, resh bet vav. The word rabbi or resh bet means to multiply. It's a matter of number or significance or importance or increase. So I will multiply them. Kamu, kaf mem vav, like mi kamoka. This is kamo, mi kamoka, who is like you. That's the kaf suffix, but this is kamo, which means quantification, which is the quantity, the numbering, the massing. He's going to multiply what? It's either the number or the importance, the significance. So to say that it's going to be better than it was, or the people will be more significant than they were when? The only frame of reference we have to the past. Go back. When was anything great? The days of David and Solomon. You go back, well, the days of Moshe, it was great, but it didn't go so great. I mean, Yahweh said, okay, step back, Moshe. I'm going to kill them all, and we'll just bring a whole new nation out of your progeny. And Moshe is like, oh, come on, please. Like he did with Abraham, starting over. Like he did with Noah, starting over. So when was the golden age? When was the glory days that this should be a reference? It'll be greater than how great it had been. I'm thinking it's got to go back to the days of David, which was approximately 1000 BC, and Solomon, who he was gifted as being the wealthiest and wisest man ever to walk the face of the earth. And he said there was, in the scripture, it says there was so much gold and silver in Jerusalem, more than sticks and stones. Well, where did he get it? Well, like when the Europeans invaded the Western Hemisphere and just raided the place of silver and gold. Is that what Solomon was doing? Or was it a legitimate mining expeditions? Or did he trade for it? Or did people just say, hey, we can see that you're clothed in the radiance of Elohim. Let's just give this to you as tribute, as a gift. There might have been that, but that's what's going to happen in the future. But it hasn't happened yet, but that's what's going to happen with the people of Yahweh. But this is what this is talking about. So Zechariah 10:8, I don't see that's happened yet, but I'm expecting, I'm listening for that shrieking red whistle. Verse 9, and the scattered seed, and then the scattered seed, hey, that's us, Be'amim, among the peoples. Hey, that's us, by being scattered across the face of the earth. Hong Kong, Finland, United States, Argentina, South Africa, wherever the scattering might be, all across the face of the earth. Then this word, Vav, Bet, Mem, Resh, Kuf, Resh, Het, Kuf, Yod, Mem. Well, Merechach, Rechach, Resh, Het, Kuf is the far side, distant, dimension, remote, removed, expelled, highly unlikely, fat chance. No way. It's beyond even belief. That's what the word means. And then here's the word Yod, Zion, Kaf, Resh, Zakar, Vav, Nun, Yod. So the Yod suffix means me or mine. The Nun is this action regarding me. Yod prefix, he will. So it's Zakaroni, ye Zakaroni. They remembered me while they were scattered amongst all the nations. And then this word Vav, Het Yod Vav, life, Aleph Tav, Beni Ham, to their children, Vav, Shin Bet Vav, return, dwell, repent. This action to be the scattered seed of Israel, having lost our identity, lost our recollection of ever being part of this thing, but to somehow take to mind and take to heart this reality. This is something important. This is something significant. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to make it my obsession. Hence Malachi 3:16. Then those men, those people spoke to one another about the Shem, not just the name of Yahweh, the fame, the renown. Who is he? What's he about? What's his covenant? What's the deal? Who's his people? How does this all work? This study. Then Yahweh says, when I bring about, when I reveal my greatest treasure, then having written down the names of those guys who thought about my name, then you will see the distinction between those who seek righteousness and those who are frivolously wicked. So something about righteousness has to do with pursuing Yahuwah. And it all starts with remembering him, though highly unlikely, being the progeny sith, scattered seed, dormant, not yet sprouted, of Israel amongst all the other nations. That's what this event is. We go on to Zechariah 10:6. Gabor T, Gabor, Gimel Bet Resh, hero, valiant, warrior, man, masculine. Gabor T et Aleph Tav Bet Yehuda, the Aleph Tav Bet Yosef. So the Tav Yod is I will. So I will champion, I will heroically come to the rescue of the house of Yehuda and the house of Joseph. That's the unified kingdom. That's the northern and southern, all 12 tribes, and Aleph, Vav, Shin, Yod, Ayin. Well, Shin, Yod, Ayin, that Shin, Ayin, Shin, Vav, Ayin is save, deliver. Starts with the Aleph prefix. I will save and deliver. Vav, Hey, Vav, Shin, Bet, Vav, Tav, Yod, Mem. This huge word. Well, Vav and the, and when something starts with a Vav, it's almost like this throwaway letter. He will, it will, it's the state of being. And then Shin, Bet, Vav, Tav, that's the root word of Shabbat, which is to return, sit, dwell, be. Be there. Yod, Mem, plural, because Resh, Chet, Mem, warm, compassion, love, mercy, like being in a womb. So here you have the scattered seed, undeveloped, unnurtured, suddenly finding Shabbat in a warm womb. Vav, Hey Yod Vav, which is here gladly to exist, Kaf, Aleph Shin Resh, like, and then the word, that's a Kaf prefix, Aleph Shin Resh is who, that, which, blessed, straight, right. Lo, that's the word no or not, the negative hyphenated with Zion Nun Chet, then the suffix Tav Yod Mem. But Zion Nun Chet is rejected, spurned, cast off, abandoned, neglected. So he says, when they return to this comfort and warmth, it'll be like they were never rejected. They've been rejected for nearly 3,000 years. It'll be like this time warp back to the glory days when Yahweh said of David, gosh, he's my best friend, a man after my own heart. Like he said about Abraham and Moshe. This is what it's supposed to be coming up. Because, Kaf Yod, Ani Yahweh Elohim, Eliham, I am Yahweh, their Elohim, and then the last word, Vav, Aleph, that's the prefix letter, I will, Ayin, Nun, Mem. Well, the Mem is the plural suffix, so Ayin, Nun, like the word Ayin, Nun, Hey, translated too fast, it means to answer, to attend to be concerned, and occupy attentively. In Isaiah 58, that's the big chapter where it talks about this word, where we should make it our attention, which is the opposite of us finding him and his ways repulsive, loathsome, abhorrent, disgusting. Yeah. Are you bringing up that subject again? Because we, while we're scattered in faraway lands, listen to it's almost like a dog whistle. He's whistling for us, but nobody else can hear it. The silent scream. What? Yahweh calling? What's he saying? What's he doing? And we answer by attending, then he suddenly answers and attends to us. That's Zechariah 10:6, Zechariah 10:7. Vav, Hey Yod Vav. Well, Hey Yod means here gladly. It's very similar to Hey Nun Hey. Like Gabor, Gimel Bet Vav Resh, that's similar to the Gimel Bet Resh. Gimel Bet Vav Resh and Gimel Bet Resh, like I said, the Yods and Vavs can come and go, and it doesn't really change much. Grammatically, someone who really knows Hebrew might say to me, shut up, it means completely the different thing. I've found by studying the dictionary and looking at the structure of these words that Yods and Vavs can be added or taken away from in between all the other letters without necessarily really modifying things very much. The essence of the communication is retained regardless of the Yods and Vavs, which are grammatical structural devices, certainly worth something, but it doesn't change the meaning. Just so you know, I'm trying to help guide people like a slalom skier through the obstacles. I'm trying to guide you so you can negotiate through these crazy long spelling words that you're not going to find in Strong's Concordance, because Strong's will find the root and tell you that's what it is and plug that in. even if only 2 out of 8 letters match, and you go, what the heck is going on? I'm trying to show you what's going on. So then it says the word Ephraim, Aleph Pei Resh Yod Mem, but Ephraim, Aleph Pei Resh is the word for bull, fertile, savage, barbaric, like a bull who owns the pasture land, the meadow. And then Va Sameach, which is rejoice, Lamed Bet Mem, their hearts like Kaf Mem Vav, there's that word Kamo, and then it's Yod Yod Nun. Well, that's the word wine. So it's like they're at that time when this is going on, that we respond to him, so he responds to us. All of a sudden, he's going to be like this hero for Ephraim, or Ephraim's going to rejoice like a valiant, heroic warrior who's just conquered his adversary. What I'm saying is that you can't really necessarily tell, is it Ephraim who's going to rise up like this conquering hero, or is it Yahuwah rising up like a conquering hero for Ephraim, or maybe Yahweh rises up and empowers Ephraim to be, instead of this downtrodden, disgusting, low down, dirty dog, like that word for dachshund, he says, as we talked about last week, because the priest's mouth were supposed to guard knowledge, but because they profaned the Torah and because they brought disregard to Yahweh's instructions, then they would be disregarded. Again, it's one of those things where he says, the Kohanim, the Levites, they're supposed to bring high regard to my stuff, which they haven't been doing. So if you go to the church and you hear people say, the law, the stinking, dirty, rotten, no good law was nailed to the cross and done away with, hooray, we don't need no stinking law. That's disparaging the Torah. And he says, anybody who does that will themselves be so disparaged. You set the pace of your own regard, not only in this life, but perhaps for eternity. Serious consequences. So for us to exalt Yahuwah by exalting his words, the regard of his voice, is the best thing we could do. The biggest deal we could possibly be engaged in. Remember, we're talking about treasures in heaven. How do you store up treasures in heaven? Talking to a friend the other day, and he said, you know, he can't recall ever in his life, and he's like pushing 70, getting years old. Imagine. He said, never once has he ever heard somebody talk about how do you actually store up treasures in heaven. I remember being in grade school, going to a church, Presbyterian church, Baptist school. I went to Baptist grade school and high school, and thinking, treasures in heaven, how do you store up treasures in heaven? I mean, do you have to become a missionary? Do you have to be a martyr? Do you have to sacrifice your life? I mean, what are the rules? Where does it ever tell us, do this and you will store up treasures in heaven? It's like, well, what's a treasure in heaven? I heard a preacher from the pulpit say, there are no treasures in heaven. He said, standing in the throne room, standing before the throne of God is the treasure. If you're there, you're there, and you just stand there forever. There's no better place to be. It's not like, hey, can I take a break? Can I go outside and get lunch and then I'll come back? No, just stand there in his presence for eternity. That's the treasure of being in heaven. Really? Well, why did Yeshua say store up treasures in heaven? Well, that's just a metaphor. That was just a fairy tale story to get our minds in that direction. That's what he said. Well, where's the truth? There was a movie titled Who Knows What Dreams May Come? It's a quote from Hamlet. And in the movie, a family, 3 or 4 different people, each had a different idea of what heaven would be like. And they end up, I think there was a car crash or they died or something. But anyway, they all go to some other heavenly place. And the question, who knows what dream may come? You know, Shakespeare writing Hamlet was pondering, gosh, is it more noble? Is it better to suffer the slings and arrows of this life where you're just getting it from all sides and you don't know what's up and what's down and you're bewildered and you're doing the best you can? Or maybe I should just check out. Maybe I should just die and go to the the great beyond where things are good. And so you get in the New Testament, people were saying, hey, the Romans are throwing Christians to the lions. So let's just, hey, I'm one. Let's just volunteer to get mauled. You know, you suffer for a few seconds, a few minutes, and then, but you have a better resurrection. You have a better eternity. That's what it says in the book of Acts. Is that the best way to get treasures in heaven? Throw yourself into the lion's den. Volunteer. A few minutes of suffering here in the body, and you'll get the best resurrection. Gosh, what is the best thing we can do? Let me carry on with Zechariah, and then we'll get to the list of verbs. I'd mentioned that we could write down a list of verbs, and I didn't reference the list I had come up with before, but I came up with a new list. They might be the same ones. I didn't double check, but just, you know, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. We're going to address here. So he says that Ephraim will be rejoicing with hearts like wine, and their children, Beniham, Yod Resh Aleph Vav. Well, that means Yod Resh Aleph is the word for fear. The children be afraid. But it means give honor and the fear of Yahweh. And then the word Sameach again, rejoicing. And then Yod Gimel Lamed, Igal, make evident, visible, clear, discovery. Gimel Yod Lamed is the age of joy, gladness, exult, dance, and sing. That's where you get the word for a circle dance. Heart in Yahweh, by Yahweh. So Lamed Bet Mem, their hearts rejoice in the discovery of Yod He Vav He. What's the discovery? What discovery? What are they going to see made visible and clear? Because, see, the word fear is Yod Resh Aleph, but Resh Aleph He means to put on exhibition, to see, sight with the eyes, but it also means to be made perceptible, allow to comprehend. So for Yahweh, by Yahweh, see, that's the last word, goes back 4 other words. For Yahuwah to allow himself to be understood or discovered or perceived means that he has to also disallow or hide himself or pull himself away and restrict. And we mentioned in the Song of Moshe that it's like, I'm you know, because of their attitude, I'm just going to back off and pull away and hide and wonder how long it takes them to realize I'm not around. I'm not answering their prayers. I'm not listening to them. I'm not regarding their life circumstances. They can pray. They can pretend I'm answering prayers. I'm not there. It doesn't match what I said I was going to do. I mean, life has its consequences. You can pray and something will happen and say, whoa, look, it was an answered prayer. Was it? Was he specifically involved? I mean, stuff happens. You don't know. Well, you don't know unless you read what he said he's going to do. And I can read through these scriptures and say, it sure doesn't look like the things that Yahweh promised his people Israel is happening, has been happening. Doesn't look like it to me. And I say that because these verses we're going to get into, a couple verses in Malachi where he says, the thing that you've been craving, longing for, yearning for, here it is. Well, you had to realize that what you've been craving and yearning for hasn't been happening for the last 3,000 years since David, before you'll appreciate that Malachi says, here it is. And then you have to say, well, when is that Malachi is about? Is Malachi talking about 2,000 years ago when Yeshua was born in Bethlehem? Here's the thing you've been waiting for. Really? Or is he talking about now? But at this point, Ephraim will rise up like a mighty warrior, rejoicing like a heart filled with, like a heart having drinking wine that was just carefree and painless. And the children seeing and rejoicing Yahweh, the heart of Yahweh. Zechariah 10:3. Ayin Lamed Hey. Well, Ayin Lamed is to raise up or to lift up or to be promoted to a higher dignity. Ayin Lamed, like the pestle and a mortar that you smash grain. Hey, Resh Ayin Yod Mem. Well, Resh Ayin is evil, wicked, mean. It's also associate. It's also shepherds. So this looks like he will raise up the shepherds. And then Ket Resh Hey is the word for hot as in anger. Aleph Pei Yod. Well, Aleph Pei is nose, but it's also anger and wrath. So he's going to lift up upon the shepherds hot anger and upon the Ayin Tav Vav Dalet Yod Mem. Well, Ayin Tav Vav Dalet means he-goat, leader, or chief. It also means reserve unit, ready to go, jumping, airborne, prepared and ready. That's like an elite military squad, what you might call shock troops, to go in and, like the U.S. has Navy SEALs. It's one of those kind of guys. And then Aleph Pei Kuf Vav Dalet, Kaf Yod Pei Kuf Dalet. Well, Pei Kuf, PQD, visit, punish, remember, hold accountable for. That's like the parable in the New Testament where Yeshua says there was a wealthy man going on a journey, so he calls in 3 servants and he gives talents. Talents is a measure of silver, could be capabilities. He gives one guy 1, one guy 3 or 5. He leaves. And he comes back and says, what do you do with what I gave you? That's the word Pei Kuf Dalet, to say, listen, you were entrusted with something, so now I'm here to hold you to account. What did you do with what I gave you? And we could say, you didn't give me much. You didn't give me anything. I just did the best I could. The guy who said, look, I was afraid. I know you're a tough master, so I buried it in the ground so I wouldn't lose it. And here, I'm going to give you that one thing you gave me back. And he says, you worthless, good-for-nothing slave, take away from him and give it to the guy that invested. And it's like, how do we invest what we were given? Or are we given money? Are we given creative thoughts? Are we given talents? Gymnastical, musical, athletic? What am I supposed to do? If, like I said, if we're getting older in life, or there are circumstances of the earth are drawing to a close, or for some people like war or calamitous weather events, if we had to right now today invest in something that we would be held accountable for, to say, this is what I did with what you gave me, or such that we could hope to get treasures in heaven, what would we do? What could we do? What can anybody do? Find a widow and orphan to go help? Sure. But what? Quick, learn a song and sing praise. Something. What would you do? Quick, empty your bank account and give it to the homeless people, the homeless camp. Is that what he wants from us? What if it's not the end of the world for us? Uh-oh, how are we going to survive tomorrow? It's like, wait a minute. What does he expect us to do? Going on with this, he's going to Pei Kuf Vav Dalet, the Pei Kuf Dalet, because Yahweh Zavot, Aleph Tav, Ayin Dalet Resh. That means herd, flock, set in order, arranged, a hoed line, a furrow of planting. That's very similar to Ayin Resh Kaf, Erectology. Aleph Tav, House Yehuda, and there, Aleph Vav Tav Mem. Well, that Aleph Vav Tav, that's a letter of the alphabet. That's a sign, a symbol of the oath. A sign, a symbol. Well, that's like an insignia, a banner, a symbol on a banner, but each symbol represents some aspect of the sworn oath. So for us to realize that every letter of the alphabet is a factor in the equation, is a bullet point of the contract, is a term of the relationship of the covenant between Yahweh and Israel. And it's not any other man on the face of the earth or any other people group. It's not some random human. It's very specifically Yahuwah, Elohim Zavot, Yahuwah Zavot, the Elohim of Israel, with Israel, his Kadoshi, walking in his ways. And so to realize, wait a minute, that Shem, that place, that name of the letters of the alphabet And then it says, Kasus hodu be melach ma. Like a war horse who glories in battle. Somehow, for us to regard these letters as what Yahweh set in order and arranged, realizing that the orchestration of this language, this alphabet, is Yahuwah's own personal communication that he has kept in reserve by which to call back his people into account of being his people. To see that should throw our mind into Yehuda, giving praise, glory, and thanks. Ephraim, a savage, barbaric bull of fertility, who's like a war horse, these metaphors being mixed together, whose glory is in the battle. It's like, what? What has he given us? What has he promised us? What has he called us to? This is incredible. This is the ultimate treasure, the ultimate gift, the ultimate discovery. Whoa. Zechariah 9. Remember, we're moving back in order. Kila Yawa Ain Adam Vekal Shabbati, that's Shin Bet Tet Yod, Israel. So you could read this as so belonging to Yahweh, and then this word ayin. Well, that's the word I. But if you look through scripture, you'll realize when he's talking about the eyes, it's usually spelled ayin yod nun yod, ayani or ayanim. But here it's just ayin. So you look it up in the dictionary, and it means besides, to weigh, to measure, balance exactly, determine particularly, or it's a deep well or that which springs up, but it's also the gleam or the sparkle or the essence of a thing. So what is this word? Is it just I? Then the word Adam, man, they call all, every, each. Shin Bet Tet is tribe, but it's also stick, club, scepter, strike. But Shin can be a prefix, Yod being the suffix meaning my, so Bet Tet is the center of this word. So is it talking about all the tribes of Israel? That he's going to strike Israel? Shin Bet Tet, but Bet Tet means, or Bet Tet Hey means utter, express, articulated, or pronounced. Bet Tet Het is to place, or is to trust, rely, depend on. Bet Tet Vav Nun is to place concrete, or it's a womb, or to make pregnant. So you could say the tribes of Israel are those people who are supposed to be, by definition, impregnated by Yahweh's words that he pronounced and articulated. And the essence of a man of all the tribes of Israel, though they're all different, they each had a different gemstone referencing them. They each have a different name. They each have a different, just like each letter of the alphabet. Each letter is different. Which one is the best letter? They all have their place. Zechariah 9:1. To Yahweh, the essence of a man of any of the tribes of Israel is whether or not, you might say, he's impregnated by the word of Yahweh. So that's a clue that what we should be doing on this life, each day, each moment, is, do we have a regard of what Yahweh said? To say, just believe. Well, you got to believe in what he said. But what did he say? Did he say there's more to believe? Hence the 20, 25, 22, whatever verbs that we'll get into in the next hour. Going on to 9:12. Return to the fortress, O prisoners of hope. I did a video called Prisoners of Hope on Mountain Air 7 that was regarding that verse. What does that mean? Prisoner of hope. I'll just move on so as not to belabor that point. The video speaks for itself. Then there's other things in Zechariah 8:23. The 10 men will say, they'll see one Ish Yehudi, one Jewish man, and they'll say, hey, we've heard that God is with you. Can we hang out with you? Or that what they say is, Nalaka amkam. We will walk with you because Shemanu Elohim amkam. We have heard that Elohim is with you, or no, we Shema. You're wearing a tzitzit. Oh, hey, so do I. Why? Because I'm listening to Elohim the same way you are. So let's walk together. Tribal unity amongst the tribes. It's all how you read the words. 8:16, speak truth, debar emet ve'mishvat shalom. That's what we're supposed to be about. And I'm bringing up these verses, 4 minutes. I'm bringing up these verses because these are answering the question, what should we be doing? Debar emet ve'mishvat shalom. Shalom means, wait a minute, does that mean speak truth and justice and peace? Or does the word shalom mean full? Speak of truth and justice in its full capacity, to the full extent. What is the full extent of truth and justice? It has to do with the covenant relationship between Yahweh and Israel, because history of mankind on the face of the earth, the reason why the earth even exists, and why did Yeshua come to earth, be crucified, resurrect, leave, and come back, it all has to do with the relationship between Israel and Yahweh Zavot. That's what the whole thing is about. And for us to either not be told or be completely unaware or pretend it doesn't exist, thank you, Mr. Ross, pretend it doesn't exist, and yet we're supposed to be speaking wholly about this? And then check out Zechariah 8, verses 10, 11, 12, 13. He said, you know, you guys, I scattered you across the face of the earth amongst the other nations, and wherever you went, you were a curse to them. Kuf lamed lamed. You were a curse to the Goyim wherever you went. That's why the Jews are just hated and disparaged, and get these suckers out of here. That's why there's this phrase called the wandering Jew. It's even the name of a plant. It's like, get them out of here. They're just nothing but trouble. But he says, it will be that I will make you a blessing. Just as I had made you a curse wherever you went, I'm going to turn it all around, and you're going to be a blessing wherever you go. And people will want you to be in their company. Aleph Lamed Al Tirah, Tav Yod Resh Aleph Vav. That means fear or exhibition. Then the next word, Tav Chet Zayin Kuf Nun Hey. Well, Chet Zayin Kuf is chazak, like be strong. And then the last word here is Yod Dalet Yod Kaf Mem. Well, the Kaf Mem suffix means your, plural. Yod Dalet is hand, but Dalet Yod is sufficiently, it's like your hand sufficiently grabbing hold of what? Well, so what I'm suggesting is that the way to read this is that it's telling us what to do. So, chazakna means grow strong, reinforce, take courage, cling to, contain, hold, seize it, regard. And then a very interesting phrase in the dictionary, it also says to maintain that something is certain. It's like, what? It's almost like he's saying, you will be regarded by the nations around you that I've scattered you amongst according to how you maintain the certainty of my promise to you. And it's like, what? When has that been part of the equation? The attitude of our confidence in Yahuwah's words determines our life. Our attitude, our confidence. Time to take a break.